All right. Well, welcome all. Glad you are here today for our kind of twice a month Zoom worship experience and laboratory and conversation. Uh, you are new to us. Welcome. If you've been here all along, welcome. It's good to see you all. As some of you know, I'm on a Facebook summer vacation. So I have not been able to interact with folks for the last, gosh, it's been a month now. So it's good to see some of your faces and names. Um, if you're new to us, we ask a few things. One, if you're going to talk later, which we encourage everybody to, go ahead and make sure you say where you're from, where you're serving in your context for ministry. And then you please use the chat room. There's tons of great expertise out there in the community here. So if you have any questions, no matter how basic you may think they are, this is not meant to be super high tech and complicated. This is really just however we can be there for each other to best make this Zoom experience a little smoother for folks. That's what we're here for. So please use the chat room. Joanna Judun is our co-host today, so she has power to mute, kick you out. I don't know, all those kind of things. So thank you, Joanna, for doing that. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So what I do every time is I just walk through to kind of prime ourselves about what we're doing at First Pres, Palo Alto, a little bit of the changes that we've been going through. Those of you that have been with this for a while, you've seen changes about how things move and flow and all of that. So, and I just share the slides from the time before with all the lumps and mistakes and all that kind of thing that we can all experience together. So this is, again, some of you know this already, but for those of you that are new, our group gathers about 9:30 on Sunday. Our tech leaders, there's about 9 to 12, depending on the Sunday, to kind of run through. We do our sound checks. So we kind of do all the things that you would do in a in-person setting where you get folks together beforehand. We pray, and then we have about a 5-minute break. About 9:55, we start letting people in. They're seeing this screen when they come in, and then about 9:57 or so, our musicians, special music, whoever's playing a prelude, they start, and they go till about 10:03, 10:04 or so. I say those numbers as if we're that precise with our timing, but I found it helpful to tell folks or to give our leadership the idea that we're counting to the minute. So we go to about 10:03, and then we begin. I do some announcements for the life of the church. We have folks from all over the country. I say we have folks from all over the world join us. We have 2 people that are outside the United States that join us every Sunday, one from the Philippines and one from Brazil, but we do have folks from all over. So our language about how we talk about welcome is really, it is historically centered in Palo Alto in Northern California, but we're really beginning to talk about welcoming and how we're building community non-geographically for the long term. I just do some announcements around what we try to have people, how we want them to connect with us. I do a thing every summer. These are our announcement sheets. If you'll notice, our announcement sheets are all the same. I do a thing where I check in with people every summer. Bible study, we're doing some other stuff. Those are all of our announcement pages. We do breakouts. Next week, we gave all the program staff gave us all the week off. And what we did was we partnered with another congregation to have, I'm not going to show the video, but have them take us for a Sunday, and then we're going to take them for a Sunday. So the whole program staff gets the whole week off. They're not trying to prepare a service and then have a guest preacher come in. So we're partnering with Valley Presbyterian Church, which is just up the street from us, theologically pretty similar. And so Jenny Warner, who you saw on the slide before, she just did an introduction and a invitation to our community. So everybody goes over there this coming up Sunday, which is great. And then they'll come to us in August. I do a little bit of walkthrough on Zoom, things that we really try to encourage people. If you're, especially for new people that are brand new to our worship, one of the things that we've shifted is really reminding people that video is optional. A lot of folks are getting to the point where they don't want to see their faces anymore. We also know that a lot of folks just don't want to have people in their homes for whatever reason, whether there's some issues around living situation or just we don't want to start getting into comparisons of what's in your backgrounds and all those kind of things. So we've been really stressing that video is optional. I talk about the service a little bit. I just lay it out for folks. We don't do a email bulletin or anything. We do remind folks to get elements for communion. I kind of say during the next 40 minutes, make sure you grab something to eat and drink for communion. We do a silent centering time with a chime, thinking about whose land we're upon. 3 minutes seems like forever, but we're pretty committed to that. We do an opening prayer with one of our parish associates. We do a hymn, confession, and the way we do it, like many, one person reads the one and another person reads the many. We have the liturgist read the one and I read the many with folks. All right. Then we do the passing of the piece, and I remind them to switch to gallery view, and then we stop sharing and everybody gets to see faces and say hello and da-da-da. Do that for a few minutes. And then we have our reading. I don't know how many of you did the lectionary this week, but this is a tough reading. But so we had the reading, and then I preach. Then we sang, which some of us were saying, many people probably sang this hymn on Sunday. And this time we did polls with our community. We tried doing multiple polls around where people are from and what we're trying to find some communication trends. So we asked a couple of questions about how folks get our information. It was actually kind of fun. We had a lot of folks who've never used the polling before on Zoom. So we played and had some creative questions for them. So that was good. If you haven't done that, it's worth a try. We had about 70%, almost 80% answer, be able to do it. So we thought it was pretty good. Then we do explain prayers of the people, raising of your hands, using star 9. And then we have a tech deacon who calls on people and asks them to unmute. We lift up prayers in the chat room, and then I switch over at the end of the prayer to do the Lord's Prayer. And then we do communion, and then from here on out, we are done and we're face to face. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my share there. So that's what we do at First Press. There's lots of different ways that folks are doing things. We're completely live, though. We only do recording, like you saw that piece from Jenny. We may bring video in if need be, but I really prefer the live setting and do as much of it as possible. So that's kind of where we've landed. We don't stream anywhere else. We don't stream to Facebook or YouTube. I know a lot of folks do. I'm of the school that the least number of technological places to have mess ups. That's what we're trying to do. So, but I know other folks are streaming. Since I'm not on Facebook, I don't know how well that's been going, because usually on Facebook in the group, everybody's sharing how awful it was or how great it was. So I don't know how that's going for you all. All right. So let's just open it up for questions, and we'll kind of see where we go this morning. So if you're brand new to us, we would love if you have a question that's been burning in your heart, mind, soul about Zoom or about anything that folks are doing around Zoom. You're invited to just go ahead and just mute yourself and talk. Otherwise, if you want to raise your hand to get in the queue, and I can call on you if you have any questions or thoughts about how things are going for you all. We're now in this, some of us, March, April, May, June, right? So 4 months, which who could have ever imagined that we'd be doing this for 4 months? And so you all have become masters at Zoom, I assume, at this point. All right, so questions, thoughts that you want to bring to the group? Anything?
Yeah, I have a question. My name is Sandra. I serve Sitka Lutheran Church in Sitka, Alaska.
Oh, well, welcome.
Thanks. I'm trying to figure out how to get the view that you started us out with, the side-by-side option. I emailed this question too. I would love that to be the view that people see, but I can't seem to make that happen.
Right. So you actually can't control what people are seeing on that side. So because right when I was talking, you actually had an option in your right hand corner to change how you see the group. So you could either see no square, my square, the speaker square, or you could do a strip of 4, or a small box of 6. So that's something the viewer controls.
Okay, but do they have the thing at the, like when you were starting, there's at the top, it says view options. And then I went down and it said side-by-side mode, which was what it was in. Do the viewers have that option?
Yes. So
okay.
you're not able to tell people how to see their screen. You can share your slides like I did, and then they'll see that, but how they see the rest of their Zoom world, they will determine. So you're not able to actually determine that for them.
Okay. I tried to instruct them in that yesterday, but that didn't seem to work out.
It's a next level of having the people to click in and all that kind of thing.
So right now they see the slides and their own
however
faces.
They choose to. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Jeff, you want to answer that? You have a question.
Yeah, I'll answer the question. We started in only Zoom, and we moved to using the OBS video production.
Hey, Jeff, remind us
software.
where you're serving.
Oh, I'm sorry, Paris, France. Paris, France. I'm sorry about that. Baptist Church in the suburbs of Paris, France, in Europe. We started with Zoom like that too, and that was one of our frustrations, was that we had to have the viewers, all the audience, have to figure out their display options, and that was a pain because then you have to have 50, 60, 100, different connections all trying to play with their options. So what we did was we added another. Bruce, you said you don't want a technology now, but I totally agree with you. This time we added one just so that we could have a share screen on the side as well as the person's video. Yeah. And that's where you need to have another software to add to it. So you can have, 2 different views that you impose upon the view to everyone. Yeah. And that's where you have to add extra stuff. And then you have to decide if you want to go there or not. Yeah, yeah. So,
and if you are by yourself and you're the only one, it gets hard. When you have folks that you have extra staff or people who know what they're doing, play away. I mean, I think that's kind of thing. All right, George, you had a question or a response?
Yeah, hi. I have a question. And I'm George Lynch from Rancho Mirage, California. So our worship task force has been meeting now for 3 weeks, and we're doing 2 things, doing our back to sort of reopening plan, as well as looking at hybrid worship. One of the things that's come up is that none of us, or we don't think anybody in the congregation, has sort of the full-on expertise for everything. And so we're really looking for a firm or an organization that kind of can consult with us to do the full-on technical work, worship experience, all of that, like as a package. And just wondering if those exist, and if anyone knows them, if they can share what those companies are.
Ooh, I have not heard of any yet, but if there are any, we should share that in the Facebook group or share it in here. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of people who would love to consult with you, but now whether they really have the experience to do it, I would probably look at some of our larger, any larger congregation is probably going to be able to do it. Now, are you really trying to do hybrid where there's interaction back and forth in the sanctuary?
Yes, and our new pastor is fully on board with this. She's incredibly excited about doing that, and has said that's exactly what she wants. So
I think I think this is frontier land, right? To really do a hybrid experience is going to be brand new for people. If you go to the Synod of Lakes and Prairies, so I did a 2-hour talk with them about hybrid worship, to think about all of the elements of that and what we're beginning to think about. So you're talking about, I don't want to go into it too deeply, right? You're talking about multiple cameras, so you're seeing multiple sides. You're looking at big screen in the front to have all the faces,
furniture positioning, all of that. Yeah.
You're looking at. I talked a little bit about creating a space that reminds people that they're not the only ones in the room. So I do a visual DJ station, and there's I think that this is all going to be new for people in a true hybrid sense. There are lots of folks that will help you stream.
Mm-hmm.
camera
I don't
work,
want that.
sound, all of that. But to do that back and forth, we're going to all be experimenting together. So it would be interesting, George. We can talk offline about what your pace is and when you're going to do it. Because I think as folks are opening up, some churches are going to start it earlier than others. We're probably not looking at until spring of next year. So I'm trying to have our folks not talk about it too much. But yeah, it'd be interesting to kind of see what folks are doing and how folks are moving into that space. But awesome, that's great. If your head of staff or new pastor is all on board, that's even better.
Oh yeah, she
Yeah,
is like totally into this. So
that's great. If you're in California, though, are you all really going to be able to reopen?
no, well,
I
I
was
mean,
gonna say.
we're not reopening. I'm guessing at this point we won't reopen before the end of the year.
Yeah,
It's just kind of the general feeling.
Californians, we keep getting added to the list of everywhere we can't go because we can't behave out here. So
Yeah, yeah.
unfortunately. All right, thank you, George. All right, I'm seeing Claire. Go for it, and then Susanna. We'll take Susanna.
I can actually talk about doing hybrid in the sanctuary.
Oh, great.
Um,
Can you introduce yourself real quick? Tell us who you are and.
that too. I'm Claire Butler. I pastor a very small 20-member congregation of older adults in West Virginia, just outside Charleston. And we had been worshiping via Zoom since all of this started. I didn't even try Facebook. Most of my people aren't on Facebook, but to get 20 of them on Zoom was like Christmas morning. It was amazing. So our original plan had been to worship outside up through Labor Day and then go back to Zoom if the weather was bad or it was too hot. And then it hit 90 degrees here in West Virginia on Sunday. And so we suddenly decided, okay, we probably need to go back inside. Being as small as we are, social distancing, wearing a mask was not a big problem. And I knew everybody was going to do that. But it then meant I frantically had to figure out how am I going to do this. So yesterday morning, I preached with an iPad that had the 3 families who are still participating via Zoom, one being my parents in South Carolina, another family who who is immunocompromised and said we will not be back to church until there's a vaccine. So I had my iPad up there. I had my laptop that was had my sermon and the worship slides, and my iPhone plugged into the speaker system that was playing the hymns that were being played pre-recorded by my piano player, and it worked.
That's
it
awesome.
worked well, and luckily I have watched a majority of these meetings that you have done, Bruce, and really made sure that I was being clear with them and using the right verbiage. You know, that there are people here, and I sort of laid out in the very beginning why the setup looked like that. You know, that they needed to be reminded that we had people who were joining us via Zoom, and they were still very much part of our worshiping community. And, you know, and even many times, we've also been doing that outside. I've set up my iPad on a table when we were outside so that I could still, and also made sure that when I was preaching, I looked at out to the congregation, but also looked to the iPad so that they could also have that visual of being reminded that they were there. And then at the end of the sermon, after the charge and benediction, I turned around and held up the iPad so they could see everybody and wave. And during prayers of the people, I turned it around so they could see everybody and be part of the sharing of joys and concerns. And it worked. It seemed to work well. You know, there were some kinks that we'll figure out as time goes on.
Sure.
But I have appreciated the advice and ideas that have come, especially from this group. And we are not technologically, you know, I did not spend a whole lot of money on adding microphones and all of that stuff because it's just not really necessary where we are.
Right.
So, you know, in all honesty, you can do a lot with a very little
that's great.
amount as well.
I'm imagining like it's Claire / MacGyver setup, which
seems absolutely.
Like you got everything. But it's good to see you, Claire, by the way. But I think you obviously don't have a huge amount of anxiety about this, right? So your leadership is helping them. Well, maybe, or you hide it well.
And then after yesterday, it kind of went, okay, we can do this.
Yeah, that's great.
We can make this work.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. There's a question in the chat room I want to address, and then Susanna, I will call on you. There's a question about sharing links online, and we've talked about this before about Zoom links. Just want to reiterate, so avoiding being Zoom bombed. Our congregation's been very fortunate not to have been Zoom bombed to this point. And again, we're registered or logging in 85 to 110 people a Sunday. We share our links out. But one of the key things that I think stops that is if you use Bitly or a link shortener, so that the searchers that are going through emails, websites, all of that, they're not able to search for your Zoom links. They won't show up because you're using a link shortener, and Bitly is the one that I use. That then you can personalize the link. But that way you can put it on your website, you can send it out, you can put it on a Facebook, and the natural searchers that are most of what the Zoom bombing is, they're not going to be able to find your Zoom link. So use a link shortener, but don't put the regular link you get from Zoom, don't put that one out anywhere. You're almost guaranteed to get bombed that way, but just use a link shortener with your link and then put that out, then you can spread that out as much as possible. All right, Susanna, you're up. Go for it.
I was saying that we were able to control a lot of, this was the earliest question,
introduce yourself and where you're from again.
I'm Susanna. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, the Delaware, Maryland Synod Council of the ELCA.
Great.
Where I am. I also am one of the I'm a parish admin for a little congregation in Columbia too, as a side thing. So I kind of do like some freelance stuff for other churches right now because they need it. So like last weekend, I worked with the Metro New York Synod to do an all-day Pride event. It was all Zoom all day. It was like 9 Zooms in a row. What a hot mess, but got it done. We're live streaming to Facebook and YouTube, well, several Facebook pages and YouTube. Anyway, so we were able to control a lot of what the live stream looked like to the other person via turning on and off our video and having the settings be don't show video participants. So we were able to play with that a lot, and it was able to control a lot of what our folks saw. And then the other thing I wanted to lift up was Enkos Films. Enkos Films is by ELCA pastor by Jason Chestnut, and the whole thing was created for the sole purpose of doing digital tech worship. I mean, like, he created solely for that purpose. The bishop walked him, and this is before pandemic, walked him through the affiliation with the ELCA, and all that company does is digital worship. And he also gets a lot of money from the synod every year to increase digital worship amongst the synod. That's a pre-pandemic organization that has been doing the work of digital worship on online and offline and hybrids, and making sure that you're doing those things together for a very, very long time. If you're looking for a company that can help you. I mean, I'm sure Jason is really swamped right now, but like somebody who's been doing this for a long time, he's really great. And then my last question, I'm able to test most things, but some things I can't test. And one of them is I need help figuring out like alternative hosts. Like I get alternative hosts can start it. But do any of you use the scheduling permissions? And because I'm thinking about, what if I get sick? If I get sick, my congregation that I serve, the congregation I'm a member at, and some synod things go kaboom. So like, I'm trying to right now create tutorials of my own about how I do my job and my volunteers, and if unless the person logs in as me, which is a security concern, because I feel like church would just like send that information, whatever, because they don't like care about it as much as I do, the security concern sometimes. So like, have any of you used scheduling permissions in order to mitigate this, and how effective are they?
Great, thank you. So just for those of you that haven't, the question is around how you have other kinds of hosts involved. So Zoom is horrible with this. Unless you have that person is part of your organization, you're not gonna. It won't work with them. So you have to. I got somebody on. Somebody is unmuted here. So unless you have. Oh, I'm getting background. Who is that? All right.
I just muted Suzanne just long enough so that she can talk and unmute herself again later.
Okay, great. Thank you. The way that Zoom works, they have to have an account at the same level as your account in order for you to do those things, to do alternative hosts and alternative scheduling, which sucks because it means that if you have a paid account, you have to have a secondary paid account as well. So what we did is we just created a second church account so that you can do shared alternative scheduling and hosting. And that second one is the one that we give to members to log into. So we have a church one that's really just for me and our admin and a couple of our staff. And then the second one is where we do all the other things if we're going to invite secondary hosts, other scheduling, so that we can hand that information out and we don't have to worry about them getting into the main account. I mean, Zoom has created a system where you have to then have 2 paid accounts in order for you to take advantage of that alternative scheduling and alternative hosts. I will say having the alternative host is really nice because you just assign it to them. They get an email, they can log in, and they are just the host. And you never have to go in and you don't have to check in, assign a host, and then check out. I mean, it really is useful. And I agree with you. We try not to hand out on our main account ever. Just because people mess things up just on mistakes. So anyway, so we want to follow up to that? Go for it.
Okay. Just real quick, FYI, for those of you who are live streaming, if you send somebody the alternative host permission and they log in before you, they are now the host and you do not have control over the live streaming permissions. You have to ask them to send it back to you. Which has happened to me a couple times, like 5 minutes before worship. So I just want to put that out there. Alternative host is great. Like I put it in there all the time because what if something happens to me on Sunday morning? But if my pastor or my worship team logs in first, then here it is. It's 2 minutes before worship, and I don't have the controls to start live streaming. So just wanted to put that out there.
That is a good reminder. We've not bumped into that unfortunately, but that's good. Jeff, you want to go ahead and respond?
Yeah, let me cover this. I mean, we've been dealing with this host issue for the last 4 months. If you want to go the cheap option and not have to pay an extra $15 or whatever to get a second license, a second paid license, you can use the host key. The host key can be found in your your paid account. It's down at the bottom of the account page. It's called host key. What it is a special code. It's just a bunch of numbers and it can be changed. You can give that to anyone. Of course, you're only going to give it to anyone you trust. That person with that host key can come into the account, can come into the meeting that must be set to allow people to join before a host. So anyone can come, and I do this all the time. I come in before the licensed user for meetings that are set to allow anyone to come in before the licensed user, the host. I reclaim the host. It's a function. It's in participants. You click on it and say, you should say, I want to reclaim the host, and use that host key. And that allows anyone that you trust to be able to become host. And they have all the host functions, including the streaming. And they can name other people as co-hosts and all that. The second point that was mentioned, if you've got an alternative host that joins before, they can also transfer the host over to another person. We always make sure that we know who is the host, who is the main host, because all of the streaming internet bandwidth goes on the host. So you have to really know who is going to be the host, so for that to work and not have this bandwidth problems happening and everything. Right. So it can be done. You just want to make sure that you get the little checklist before you all start, who's our host, who are our co-hosts, and get that all clear. and a person can join as a host before with that host key. So that can fix a lot of these problems, but they cannot schedule. So you can't do both. They can't do the extra thing, schedule meetings. Only the administrator, the paid licensed person can create meetings and all the rest of that. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, and I suspect for most people on this call, it is just you. I think for most of you all, it's really just you. And so it's the real easy precautions of logging in, only naming co-hosts, just making sure that you do that in case something goes on. I think some of the simple early things to do in case anything happens with your computer or anything like that, I think are just always good things to do. And then as you get more and more into this, as more folks are getting involved, I think the one thing that I get out of this from both Susanna and Jeff, who are kind of next level with this, is that at some point if we're in this for a while, you're going to have to go a little bit next level to be able to share some responsibilities and be able to really, like this pace, like you wouldn't lead worship every single Sunday of the year anyway. So I talk about this all the time, how are you going to take some time away in a way that you're comfortable with, but in a way that's also going to serve the community you're serving? I love that we have churches in our area that we're just basically not having worship and folks are willing to go over there. That's the easiest thing to do. But the other piece is, so we're going to do a training at our congregation where I've challenged myself and folks have said, okay, it's time now that I need to give up DJ responsibilities, which is going to be really hard for me because I have very high needs around that. But it's important for us to do. It is not worth what they are paying me to serve at this church for me to be the only person that knows that's running worship. So I think that we're all having to figure out what is that next level for us. I think for our own self-care, for the life of the church, there are a lot of things that we're not doing because many of us are running the slides and worship and doing all of that. What are those things that we, as we're in this long term, how do we do some of the other stuff that we need to do? So, so Susanna and Jeff, thank you, because I think this pushes people to think about what is going to be that next level for folks and how to engage, and that it is happening. All right, let's keep going. More questions. What do you got up there? And if you have any, I don't know, any hands raised, but let me see how it's going. Let me just ask then, if any Zoom bombing happening out there lately? Has anybody been Zoom bombed lately? Had any experiences at this point, or has everybody figured out how to avoid that pretty much? Good.
No, this is Ray Began from Alexandria, Virginia, Fairlington Presbyterian Church. We haven't had Zoom bombing, but we seem to, this one unusual, we don't know if it's a bot or something, will show up and we just kick it out, but it doesn't respond.
And it's
it
never
uses
done
the same
anything?
name every time.
And it's never done anything.
Yeah. They use the name free to be at FPC. Our church is FPC, and they use the same thing every time. And sometimes in the logs, they'll show up as having tried to get into the site at other times, but they never interact, and we bounce them.
Oh, interesting. So they know you.
Yeah, don't know if it's a person or some kind of computer thing.
Okay. Well, glad you haven't been hit yet. That's great. That is good. But good.
But no
good
other
good
problem.
Awesome.
Bombing.
All right. Awesome. Cool. Others? Anybody? All right. Any other questions or thoughts or things that are going on for folks? I hate for us to run out of time, but we can. Oh yeah, Ray, go ahead. Go for it again.
Yeah. This is. We're doing okay with pretty much the Zoom stuff. We realize it doesn't have to be perfect, and we want to start switching to live music. We don't have much of a budget, so what recommendations do you have in terms of what are the minimums, like microphones on the cheap, if we want to be able to plug it into a laptop and be able to pick up the organ music or that kind of thing?
So we do. If you can, I'm getting feedback on your computer, Ray. If you would mute yourself real quick.
Okay.
What we have done a couple of things. One is if you have somebody who's playing a keyboard or anything like that, you're just doing instrumental, they can plug right into the system, and that's great. What we do now is we have one our organist and a cantor singer in the sanctuary, and they're faced in a line. If you go to our YouTube, you can see how we do it. They're about 20 feet apart. The camera is on one side here. Our singer is facing the camera, and there's a microphone here, and then our organist is way in the back. So we've made sure, and our organist wears a mask. And our singer is singing away. We're using a Snowball, which is probably your cheapest good microphone, but we're going to upgrade to a Blue Yeti for our organist. A Snowball works fine. If they haven't had live music in a while, a Snowball, it's just going to be like, oh, great, we have live music. So that's what we do. And that's a $50, I don't remember, they're 50-ish bucks for a Snowball microphone that picks up pretty well. And that's a good general, I mean, that's the one that I use for most of my meetings. That's what this is. For my podcasts and worship, I use a Rode Podcaster, which is it's a next level up. I love it, but that you don't have to spend that kind of money. So I would go with a Snowball that's around 50, or to go to a Blue Yeti, which, if those of you have Yetis, what are those, like 150-ish or something? So, but definitely worth it. Don't do it off of your computer microphone. So of anything, don't do that. But if you're going to get live, go ahead and just do a Snowball, because it picks up everything. And if there are other, Catherine Pater, you said you can speak to the music piece. Go for it.
Yeah, hi, I'm Catherine Pater, she, her, hers, work in Scarsdale, New York at Hitchcock Presbyterian Church, Westchester County area. And so just so you all know, Zoom is a brilliant piece of software, and it's not great for live music. Like everybody knows this is sort of, decided on, but we have a few things that have worked better. We do use a Blue Yeti. I think it cost me $100 when I bought it a couple years ago. It was on sale, but it's $150. It is so much better than what you would just get off of your laptop. So if you want to improve the quality, that's helpful. And there are also a few other solutions. One is there are ways you can play with the sound settings in Zoom, and just Google like Zoom music on YouTube, and they have like tutorials, but there's a way to basically turn off a lot of the sound and echo cancellation, other things that Zoom does to make it easy for us to speak to each other and kind of like to have our voices come in and out. That's what makes music difficult and speaking good on Zoom. But there's some things that you can turn off to make some of the fading in and out effects and cutting in and out effects that you get on Zoom with music, like to lessen them somewhat. We've also done some pre-recorded hymns. So like our organist will play on the organ and record it from a mic directly to his computer, like our Yeti or something else. And then actually put the hymn lyrics at the bottom using iMovie. And then we will embed that video in our PowerPoint slides. So it feels kind of like a live worship experience of the organ, but it's a way higher quality kind of music. So we'll weave that in and out with like the Gloria Patri and the doxology and like a prelude and postlude being played on the organ. So even if the music quality isn't perfect, when people are actually singing, it's either something they're familiar with and it's live, or it's pre-recorded and they can hear it better. So we've just been experimenting around with that. And someone was also talking about just like pre-recording. I mean, if you have any software like iMovie or something like that on your computer, it's really easy to just collect clips from people, put it together, and then just put it on YouTube. And that's what we did for several months, and have only recently moved to sort of this live Zoom worship thing. So it's easy to do that for music for the whole service. And that's kind of how we've dealt with like the difficulties in music. So a good mic helps, and changing the settings helps. But especially if you're with an organ, all of the swells and kind of natural ups and downs that the organ will do in a large room, Zoom is going to cancel a lot of that out, and it's not going to be perfect, but people will appreciate it anyway. So that's just a little bit about our experience.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. That was awesome. Yes, there's tons of, Ray, if you're not in the Facebook group, there's tons of information around the settings. The one you're really looking for is original sound. You have to do some walk through your main account, and there's a bunch of sound settings. There are 2 or 3 really good YouTube videos out there that walk you through all the different settings that you do as an administrator, and then the person recording also has to do some changes on their side. So just make sure it's on both sides. Awesome. Thank you, Catherine. That's amazing. All right, I'm going to go to Jeff. Jeff, why don't you go for it? Jump in, man. I think.
Which Jeff?
Oh, Spencer. You had your hand raised, right? Yep,
yes, and I honestly don't remember what I was going to ask about, because I got so interested in the answers to the live music. So if it comes back to me, I'll raise my hand again.
Awesome. Well, good to see you. Yeah. All right, Susanna, go for it.
Okay, this right now I'm on my tablet because I'm running updates on my computer. So don't use this sound as like what I'm talking about. This sound is just my tablet and my coffee cup. Okay, so I wanted to let you know about my Blue Yeti died, and it was terrible. And y'all should know that its USB port is like notorious for breaking. So like you have to be careful with that wire. Just gingerly love that USB port. Be careful, like, because you know, like it like swivels, and so you want to make sure that's real tight, because if it like flops down, then it'll take the cord with it and break the USB. It's a whole mess. But then I found this sucker. This is a sucker that I got right when the pandemic came out. It's the Samsung Go mic, and I got it because I thought that we were going to be doing services outside or small groups of people in places. I didn't realize we were going to have to completely isolate. So I pulled this out, and I never used it because somebody sent me the Blue Yeti like right after the pandemic. So I was like, woohoo! My Blue Yeti broke, and I pulled this out. This was $30, and nobody can tell the difference. Nobody can tell the difference. It's very small. Like if you can see my hand, I just want to let you know it's so portable. Most Android and iPhones that can read USBs will take it. So you can actually plug it into your iPhone and your tablet, and also so that makes it very portable. If you have a USB to Type-C converter, and then it's got the settings on the side that are cardioid and omnidirectional as well, just like Blue Yeti.
For English speakers, that would be direct or wide.
Yeah. So like, I was gonna get there, I swear. So, like, the cardioid only picks up the stuff right in front of my face, and then the omnidirectional does all over the place, like which the Blue Yeti has. But I just wanted to highly recommend it in terms of like a backup or a portable solution, since so many of you are doing things outside with your phone.
What's the name of the model again?
It's called a Samsung Go mic, not Samsung, Samson, like the Bible. And like Samsung, as in Delilah, Go mic, M-I-C, Go mic.
If somebody wants to look that up and throw it in the chat room, that would be awesome. That's great. So you said about $30?
It was like $30, yeah.
There you go.
I mean, it might be more now because the pandemic has gone on, but when I got it, it was only like $30.
Cool.
And then the other thing I wanted to say was that thank you, just to you, but also to, I am not clergy, and I recognize there's a struggle right now. Church has not necessarily been super great to staff people, and has always kind of like pushed them off as kind of like not necessarily necessary because pastors could do it all completely on their own. And this pandemic has taught pastors that they can't do it completely on their own. And you are the ones that have like embraced that and said, you know what, I can't do it all on my own. And I recognize that, I mean, I'm going through this with my pastor right now, but she has to recognize that she can't completely fix everything. And that's a struggle for her, that she is not the answer to all the things, and that technology is not just a thing that you throw at the 16-year-old in your congregation, but is an actual talent, skill, and vocation worthy of hiring somebody. And I just want to appreciate all of you who said things, who are like dealing with the fact that Zoom is going to require your staff or your volunteers to have administrative permissions, and that like, and that you're going to have to learn to delegate, and that it's an actual skill and a vocation. And I don't know if you've heard thank you yet lately, but thank you for that, because I know church has taught you that everything you ever needed to learn, you learned in seminary, and now you're good. And I just want to say thank you for recognizing that we're all part of this body, and we need all of us to get through this.
Great.
So
Thank you, Susanna. Everybody take that affirmation. Just receive it. No, you don't have to respond. We're also horrible at taking affirmation, so just receive it and do with it what you will. All right, Jeff has his hand up, but I want to know make sure that if there are other folks that have any questions or thoughts. Jeff Spencer, did your question come back? No. Okay, that's cool. All right, any others? And then we'll call on Jeff Allen again. All right, go for it, Jeff Allen.
Yeah, I was waiting for other people to think so. So I'm going to briefly mention OBS. I actually made a whole bunch of videos, but unfortunately they're all in French. So this won't help any of you. But I do have the captions set on them in French, and so you can request the English translation captions on those videos to do it. But it took me so much time to do all these videos already. There's tons of Zoom stuff, and the French population had nothing. I mean, in English, we've got support and documents in Zoom. There was nothing in French, so it had to be done in French. OBS very simply allows you to do dual view. You can have different screen captures, video captures. You can have different views of things, and allows you to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as many of these views as you want with the sound, and you can put them side by side or however you want, and then you can push that into Zoom as a screen share. So it imposes on the view of everyone how you want the kind of the landscape of that view to be. So if you want to have live music, people singing with words coming from your song software from elsewhere, you can put them all in there and make it all look really cool. But there's a learning curve. So I'm just going to add that. It's not something that's plug and play. You do it in 5 minutes. There are lots of videos about this, how to do it. And what we've done is we've just made a kind of a video of our entire service from end to end, what we do at what point and everything, what we use to do things. Yeah, the mixing board in there with the sound and all that. We're doing hybrid now. It's a whole nother ball game. So, I mean, I only want to give a couple minutes here because this takes hours to explain how deep you want to go.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Just make it simple.
Can I ask you a question, Jeff? Can you briefly tell us about your structure of staffing and leadership and because OBS,
one pastor,
okay,
one pastor, full-time, a small church of 150 people. In France, that's a medium, big size church. And one pastor, but he worked previously in software development. And so he was a manager. So he's known to delegate things too. And I worked in software development. So we've got 2 technically competent people that I've worked with. Everything that Zoom competitors, I've worked with them for 15 years on a daily basis, my job. So this is nothing new to me. So we had some competency and skills there already in place. We've got several of people, one of the other elders who's learned OBS and all that. And now we are training a new generation, the next generation, the 3 of us are trying to get several other people that used to help with the sound system now to be involved with this online experience.
Great.
Cool. But now we're going hybrid. So now it's a whole, things are changing every week. It's just changing every week. So trying to figure that out. And
that's great. Thank you, Jeff. I think it's I think it's important as you're thinking about what is next, right? There's going to be so many different levels of what you're comfortable with, what your church is comfortable with. Really understanding your capacity is going to be really important, in the capacity of the congregation. When I'm doing these talks on hybrid, I think one of the answers to do you want to do hybrid is certainly no. There is really, like, you don't want to, I'm trying to say now that hybrid is the way worship is going to go in the future. It is, as styles go, it is a way. And I think really understanding your capacity and your comfort, all of that is going to be helpful to move into these things if you want. I know there are a ton of people in the Facebook group that are using OBS. And so there's a lot of expertise in that group of just, total tech nerds and now like stars of worship. It's great. Use their expertise in that Facebook group. I know that OBS is really popular. I looked into it once and I just so much stuff to have to learn. But if you want to head into that direction, there's a lot of good stuff. So thank you, Jeff, for that. All right.
Bruce, there was a question on chat. There's a question on chat about recording and replaying the following week. It was Karen asked that question.
Recording and replaying the following week. Let me see. What was the?
Karen Neal is on. So if she
Yes.
Yeah, go for it. Go ahead and ask.
We've been pushing our rector to take a break, and he has finally agreed to do that. And thank you.
Karen, where are you serving?
That.
Where are you serving? Where's your ministry
I'm sorry,
context?
Washington, D.C., the Episcopal Church of the Atonement.
Oh, okay. Great.
And we want to record a service and then play it back during our regular service time, so it doesn't look like we're away, but we're not really sure of how to do that.
So that's a big question. Not a hard one though, but there's a lot of elements to that, right? So there are lots of folks. So I think the difficulty is this group, generally speaking, we're mostly using some kind of hybrid, doing Zoom, doing some kind of live piece. There are a lot of churches, that's exactly what they do, because it takes away any issues around bandwidth and all of that. I think folks are going to know you're away, though. I will say that the trying to convince people that you're live when you're not live. And the biggest reason I will say is what happens between the time you record and that Sunday. I would actually make it very clear to people that you're not live, because I think people got who were recording previously, Memorial Day weekend, when all of the George Floyd stuff in Minneapolis happened, they recorded on Thursday, and by Sunday, their sermons had zero context. So I actually would say if you're going to record a full service live, a full service and then show it, I would actually tell folks, we're recording this on Thursday, da-da-da-da, because what I saw a lot of pastors have to do was on Sunday, after their recorded services played, they sent something else out to let their folks know that. And the other piece that happened, what we found, so I put something out that said I was going to preach exactly on this, and churches that knew they were going to have pre-recorded services, they didn't go to their churches. They came to our congregation. We had about 30 extra people show up at our worship service because their church was doing pre-recorded and knew that they were not going to hear about what had just happened. So that would be one. And I actually would say go real simple. If I in 2 weeks had to record, unless you have somebody that knows how to use iMovie, like see if somebody knows how to use it, great. If you're an iMovie pro or somebody else, then you can try to have people record different things and send them to you and put them together. Otherwise, I would probably just go with, I'm going to do a prayer, a reading, read scripture, preach, and a prayer, and just post that. I mean, I'd go for simple. So that would be if there's whatever causes the least anxiety and stress, to make sure that your rector is able to take that time off. That's what I would go with. I don't know if that's helpful. Other people want to jump in who have tried to do the whole pre-recorded thing. I mean, it's a valid and good way to do worship. So I'm not saying Zoom is best, but anybody else have done that or have any thoughts about it? All right, Karen, hopefully that was helpful. There are some other Facebook groups I know that are much more looking at the recorded piece. So awesome. All right. We'll take a couple more. If you're joining us for the first time, you have any questions or thoughts or anything? I don't know if we have any new people. I'm not sure, but we're glad everybody is here. I forgot to post my recording from last week. I commit to making sure that I will post this recording in the Facebook group and sneak back in. Some of you know, I mentioned at the beginning, I'm on a Facebook summer vacation, and it is lovely to not be on Facebook. I also miss interacting with people, especially in this group. So I do miss some of that and seeing your faces and all that. But overall, you should try it. You should just take a Facebook break for 2 weeks and see. You'll realize, one, how you were using it for good stuff. And you're like, oh, I'm not doing it. And then you'll realize how much time you were sitting there doing stuff that probably you could be doing other things. Like being on Instagram or Twitter. That's really where I've gone. So, it's all good. All right. Any last questions at all? I'm not seeing any hands raised. All right. I appreciate you all very much. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Please, hopefully people are taking their time off. I think that's the biggest thing. Share the responsibilities, all those kind of things. Appreciate everything you are doing, and we will see you in 2 weeks. All right. Bye, y'all.